Here is Chris Coney. Please welcome him on the stage.
Hello, testing 1, 2. Okay, this is Decentralized Exchange as fast as possible. Got a timer, that's a good thing. So I'm the founder of Cryptoverse. It's the online school for Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains. And when I say as fast as possible, I mean it. So let's do it. So when we say decentralized, what are we decentralizing exactly? To my mind, it's power, control, and risk. That's the thing we want to decentralize when we're talking about decentralization in the blockchain space. This is the best diagram I've ever seen to describe what decentralization means. You've got these different network structures. You've got centralized on the far right there, we use as the definite center point, which you could take out. So that's a central point of failure, central point of risk, central point of control. And as you go this way, it becomes more and more decentralized. Now, to me, there are three main benefits to decentralization of exchanges in particular. You've got decentralized liquidity on the left there. If you've got an exchange over here, an exchange over here, you might have buyers and sellers that are doing business, but if you've got a buyer over here, you can't link them to a seller over there unless you do it manually via an arbitrage trade. So with decentralized exchanges, if you can link them all together somehow, you can share all those order books across the world. No honeypots is the second one, security. So decentralization of risk. If there is no honeypot, a honeypot is a term that hackers use to say that there's all the money. If you put all the money in a centralized exchange, you break into the central point, you can get all the money. Whereas when we move to decentralized exchanges, we move to an edge security model where all of the money is at the edge of the wallet. We doing all right? So if you broke into my wallet, all you would get is my Bitcoin, say. So that's what we mean by no honeypots. Then privacy. This isn't an absolute rule, but many decentralized exchanges don't require you to identify yourself. And I'll talk about a few of those in this presentation. So here's the first one for you. Localbitcoins.com. This is probably a classic one that many of you know about. This isn't entirely decentralized. It follows this model over here. The difference is that local Bitcoins don't store any of your money. This is a marketplace like eBay where any of you can advertise your Bitcoin for sale at whatever rate you want to sell it at, and then anybody else can come and claim that order. So it's a matchmaking service. Now, this is pretty popular in Norway, as you can see. The major downsides are, as time's gone on, if you sell me some Bitcoin, the bank transfer is reversible, but the Bitcoin transaction is not. So there's been quite a few fraud cases on local Bitcoins where the hacker, the attacker, has ended up with both because they've called the bank and said that was fraudulent, the bank transaction, and then they've got the Bitcoin and the fiat currency as well. The other downside to this is it's only fiat currency to Bitcoin. It's called localbitcoins.com for that reason. One of the main reasons you might want to use this is because you do get personal service. You get an individual trader to deal with you can go back to time and time again. And if you want to meet someone in person and buy with cash, you can do that too. Here's another popular one you might have heard of, Shapeshift.io. Again, it's centralized in the sense that there is a centralized website you could take down. However, you don't store any of your funds on Shapeshift for more than a few minutes while the trade is taking place. That actually wasn't supposed to be on top of that until I clicked it, but right here, this is the actual interface. You click the asset you want to deposit, say Bitcoin. You click the asset you want to receive, which is Dash. You send your Bitcoin, you receive the Dash. In a few minutes, that's it. So while Shapeshift do have custody of your funds, it's only for a matter of seconds or minutes until they exchange it for whatever asset you want, and that's it, you're done. So there's no account required. All you need is, in this case, a Bitcoin address and a Dash address, and you're off to the races. The other downside to this is that there are only a certain number of assets supported, and it's all crypto, so you can't do any kind of fiat exchange with this. You don't need an account though, and it's very, very easy to use. If you've never used an exchange before, I would definitely say start with this, because it is just so easy. The reason I put a picture of that KeepKey hardware wallet up is because more and more wallets now are integrating Shapeshift into the back end. So right from within inside a wallet, you can say, I want to turn my Ethereum into some Bitcoin, and it goes to Shapeshift in the background, exchanges it for you, and then just comes back so you never leave the wallet. So that's a great user interface point. This one in particular is quite popular in Norway as well. This is a screenshot of trades in Norwegian krone. So Bisk, formerly known as BitSquare, is a desktop software application that you download. It runs on the Tor network, so it's completely anonymous. You don't need an account for it. And this allows you, kind of like localbitcoins.com, to trade any kind of fiat currency for Bitcoin. And there are also now some crypto trading pairs appearing. So you just drop down the pair you want to trade, and there we go. So here's the order book. You've got quite a few traders in both sides of the order book wanting to buy and sell Bitcoin in Norwegian krona, which is odd. The biggest thing that's held this thing back is liquidity. If you've got a new marketplace, there are no buyers and there are no sellers because there's no buyers and no sellers. So you kind of have to bootstrap it in some way. But when I took this screenshot, I was pleasantly surprised to see, in Norway in particular, Bisk is quite popular. The only downside is a desktop app, so you can't use it on your phone yet. And again, because there are so few people using it, except if you're in Norway, there is very low liquidity. Now, I've put 3 exclamation marks above that thing that says an API is planned. So an API essentially would allow the whole set of centralized exchanges to share order books, because this could sit in the middle, pulling in buy orders from all of the centralized exchanges, and it could pull in all the sell orders from decentralized exchanges and essentially mix and match between all the different centralized exchanges. So that would be absolutely huge. So that's the model on the left there, or the right, is the decentralized model that Bisk uses. So Bitshares, this gets more into the blockchain side of decentralized exchanges. Bitshares is a blockchain project, you might have heard of it. This was specifically designed from the ground up to be a decentralized exchange. That's what Bitshares is. Unfortunately, reasonably low adoption. Even though it's been around forever, it's been around before Ethereum, in fact. This was actually the second cryptocurrency that I studied after I discovered Bitcoin. And I'm a big fan of it, but big learning curve. If you don't even recognize what that screen is, that's a fairly typical exchange order book screen, but most people just see that and they freak out. So it's very difficult to get the hang of if you're starting from scratch. The benefit of Bitshares, though, is it does allow you to do fiat currency pairs as well as crypto pairs. It's incredibly quick. It was designed to do many, many thousands of transactions per second. So that's a good thing. And I've put there in the top right, another benefit is you can easily create what Bitshares calls a UIA, which is a user-issued asset, which is essentially the same thing as what you do with Ethereum when you create an ERC20 token. So ERC20 tokens are just currencies that are built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. A user-issued asset is exactly the same thing on Bitshares, except anybody in the room could do this in about 10 minutes, costing about $200, and you would need any technical knowledge whatsoever, like you would with Ethereum. Now, Bitshares is kind of adopting this model here, which is a distributed model. So, like I said with Bisk, this could also be a fabric in between all of the exchanges. So I've put Bitgate as an example of, could be one of these gateways here. It could have a bunch of customers. You could put your funds on Bitgate and then get access to everything else in the network. So Bitgate are kind of going for a system like this, where they want to integrate the old financial system with the entire crypto economy. So that's the best diagram I could give you on that. I mean, talk to Bitgate about how exactly it works, but it came right after the Bitshares slide for a reason. Now, EtherDelta, this is even more decentralized. This is actually a decentralized exchange built on Ethereum. It was actually the first of its kind to do this. So this thing is actually a smart contract. It runs on the Ethereum supercomputer, so it doesn't have any centralized server, and you can't take it out. So it's like this. You couldn't possibly take EtherDelta down if you tried. The only way you could is if you snagged the domain name or something, but even then, there are ways around that as well. Now, because it's built on Ethereum, which is like 10 to 15 transactions a second, it's a bit slow. And if you are a real hardcore trader, you see an opportunity, you can't wait 10 to 15 seconds because the price may have moved since then. So that's one downside. And again, it looks horrible to the average newbie, right? I mean, traders love it to bits, but if realistically we're going to have decentralized exchanges across the world, it needs to get much easier to use. Big benefits, no sign up, it's entirely private. All you need is a Ethereum address and you're off. And it's permissionless because it doesn't know who you are, doesn't care. The other downside is that it's only cryptocurrency pairs and it's only coins that are built on Ethereum that this supports. So we're looking for the holy grail here. So the future. This is a new protocol that's been built on Ethereum. We just talked about EtherDelta as being a smart contract. It's a decentralized exchange that runs on the Ethereum supercomputer. Well, essentially this ZeroX protocol is going to allow anyone to build an EtherDelta-style decentralized exchange and then compete with EtherDelta. Because you can imagine when you build an exchange, there's a lot of common functions like order matching and buy and sell orders, all those screens that I keep showing of decentralized exchange, they pretty much look the same, don't they? They've got a buy and sell order book, they've got a depth chart and an order form and all this kind of stuff. So why EtherDelta had to build this all from the ground up, obviously. But every time, you don't want to be reinventing the wheels. So the ZeroX protocol was developed as an open source platform. So you have Ethereum, you have ZeroX, that takes care of a lot of the decentralized exchange functions that are common. And then anyone can go about setting up like a front end like this. This is one that's just launched recently called Radar Relay. It's the first front end for this ZeroX protocol system that you can actually use right now. So it's still in development, that's one downside. It's Ethereum only again because it's running on the Ethereum supercomputer. But the good thing about ZeroX is just like with any protocol, is it will standardize everything. And that again will allow all these decentralized exchanges that are built on this protocol to share customers essentially, so that you'll get more liquidity on the go. And again, because it's built on Ethereum, it uses the completely decentralized network model. So we're looking for the Holy Grail, and it may be on the horizon. This thing, the NVO system, remains theoretical until January of next year. However, this could have all the benefits of everything we've talked about with none of the drawbacks. So this is promising things like you'll be able to trade from your own wallet, so you never lose custody of your funds. It will be any asset to any other asset. It will be completely decentralized. One of the downsides, I would say, it says requires the Safe Network to launch. So the Safe Network is another blockchain project, and these guys have kind of been bold. They are building this on a technology that isn't actually launched yet. So if the Safe Network doesn't launch within the next year, say, they're going to be waiting for the platform to launch before they can actually use this thing. This modular design, I put it as one of the main benefits. It has a plug-in system. So with all these exchanges, it's like, yeah, but what when a new cryptocurrency launches? What we're going to do is all this coding to go on. Well, you decentralize the development. Just like if everyone's head of WordPress, right? The reason WordPress as the website platform is so successful is because anyone can write a bit of functional code and plug it into the system. So with this, anyone who launches a new cryptocurrency project can then create a plugin for the NVO decentralized exchange, and all of a sudden, it opens it up to the world for anyone to trade that new asset. So this really could be the Holy Grail, including the fact that they're going to integrate Ripple, which would allow access to fiat currency pairs as well. So keep your eye on this one. So thanks very much. I've been Chris Coney. That's been Decentralized Exchange as fast as possible. If you want to follow me, there are my details. So now it's lunchtime. So thanks very much for listening, and go eat. Thanks.